All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October 2023 FMDiSC meeting. I'm Bob Shockey. I'm your host today, and we have a great group of presenters today. We're starting with Claus Lavendt and Peter Wagemans with Whistleblower 2.0. And then a little bit after that, we're going to have Chris Moyer with our Tech News Roundup. And a new monthly installment that we'll be doing for around 5 months, which is Meet the Board Members. Just for those of you who don't know those of us who run this show every month, just a chance to get to know each of us. So I'll be letting you know a little bit more about me today, and I'll try not to bore you for very long. And then in between, we're also going to have some breakout rooms so we can all socialize a little bit, and then we'll wrap up with Marcel Moret with the Claris platform update, the bottom line. And we will be kicking things off right now with Klaus and Peter. And guys, I have to make you...
Please mute.
Oh, yes, and please, everyone, mute yourselves so that we don't get any unexpected interruptions. And guys, I have to make you co-hosts in order for you to be able to... Who's presenting? Is it Klaus?
Yes, I'm gonna start out, and then Peter and Ian will take over, and then I'll show something at the end.
Okay, so I'm making you a co-host right now, and then I'll do that for Peter and Ian as well. You should be able to share your screen.
All right, let's try that. You see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my girls, the smallest one. So you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So this is Whistleblower, FileMaker Whistleblower V2. It's a FileMaker server and monitoring and management tool that is a collaboration between Peter, myself, and Ian. We got a nice icon designed, and the history is that we got an idea, Peter and I, during, oh man, that's a long time into the future, but it was only at 2016 in .fmp in Berlin, where at that time, it's now 7 years ago, at that time there were not many tools to manage and monitor FileMaker servers, and especially not if you had multiply servers that you wanted to monitor and manage. So we were brainstorming and talking about what if we could, and then it just spiraled from there. Peter is really great with a lot of code, both FileMaker, but he also possesses some great skills in developing in Soyo that you probably all know. So at that time we had the Windows and the Mac version of FileMaker server. So he created a kind of client or a daemon or as you call it on Windows service that you could install on the FileMaker server, and then it would look into the log files. It would also collect information about the processes. Back then, we often saw issues where the SASE engine crashed, or some of the other engines crashed, and they never really got up again. So the idea was that based on what we saw in the log files or the log entries or what we saw in the processes, we could take action on that and fire off a command to the FileMaker server and make it reboot or restart a process if needed. So that was Whistleblower version 1. It was based on delivering all these stats to a central MySQL server because we quickly quickly realized that we were talking about millions of records, which at that time we didn't think FileMaker was really fit for. The idea has always been that the controlling part was built in FileMaker because, hey, everyone in this community knows FileMaker. So it would be easy to modify and customize this tool. So some years has passed, and I've been using it for managing and monitoring the servers that we are responsible for. But over the years with new OS versions, then it would require some more updates from the Soyo tool as well. And we didn't have a Linux version. So when we started to get the Linux version, okay, for FileMaker server, I started speaking with Peter about how could we build a Soyo based client for the Linux version, because now most of the servers are running Linux. And that really kicked off the version 2 idea, where Peter got an idea of, instead of building it in Soyo, maybe he could build it in Python. So we started that this year, version 2, and Ian joined at .fmp in June this year, because Ian apparently has a lot of skills into Python scripting. So it was perfect to get him on board. So what is Whistleblower? Please stop me if it's going too fast or if it's too boring. So Whistleblower is a monitoring and control system to monitor FileMaker server processes, websites that connects with FileMaker and FileMaker solutions. I'm gonna so the idea here is that we have the clients. I'm going to call it clients. I know Peter had a better word, but I forgot what the word was. He can jump in later and put in the right word. But the clients that collects information about your FileMaker server, and that is like stats, the how much memory is in use, how much CPU for the specific processes that is related to FileMaker, which is those we are really interested in, and the log entries. And besides the information about your FileMaker server, many of us has built websites that connects to a FileMaker solution. It could be portals, you know, whatever. We have built a small utility that basically say if, let's say, we connect via DAPI and we cannot connect to DAPI to that particular FileMaker server, maybe DAPI is not running, or maybe that server has some problems. We show a message on the website saying, hey, sorry, something went wrong. Our team is hard at work at this 24/7, and please try again in a few minutes. That information goes into the Whistleblower system, which sees it as a, hey, DAPI is not running. Let me fire off a command to restart DAPI, and then that website will probably work again. The same with reporting when something goes wrong in your FileMaker system. It could be a script that is sending out emails. Maybe an order comes in and then an automatic email is sent. Maybe that email goes wrong, or it could be an SMS that is not being sent because, hey, you forgot to pay some more money to your accounts. You have spent all your credits at the SMS gateway, or whatever it could be. It could be many other places. So like processes and scripts where everything works, of course, when you develop and test it, because that's the ideal situation. But as we all know, things happen and real life happen. And it would be so nice to know, hey, something happened here. It was a mistake. It was an error. And we get the information into Whistleblower and is able to react most of the times before our customer can pick up the phone and say, hey, we got a report that something went wrong. So Whistleblower can be used for several other things, and it's built in FileMaker, the control part. So it's so highly customizable. So it's so much more than just logs and processes and stats and so on. Sorry for the spelling mistakes. I should have run some more spelling. So why should we use Whistleblower when you could use, for example, Zabbix? Well, when the idea started, we didn't know about Zabbix, if that was even a thing then, but there were, of course, other tools available. Many of these tools has a steep learning curve, and they work well for many things, but maybe not so well for FileMaker stuff. And we can do custom, even on down to the server basis, because it's just a FileMaker script that goes in and looks at the log entries and the processes. So even on a server by server basis, we can decide what should we do with this event that happened. So, and it does so much more because we can have custom code in the websites, like I talked about before. If, for example, DAPI is down or something else goes wrong, that might not even be related to the FileMaker connection, but it could be another error that happens, you know, when the wind comes from west and the rain is going down at Chicago at the same time as, you know, whatever is happening, all those strange situations. And because it feeds information into the whistleblower, we can integrate that with our internal system, so we can create a task for the specific developer who is responsible for that solution and say, hey, you know, Thomas, you have something you need to work on here, which is kind of nice that you can do that. So that's a reason for using Whistleblower. And then I think it's fun to work in an environment that I know instead of learning. Well, it's also fun to learn something new, right? But you can do a lot of things that you will have a hard time trying to accomplish in tools like Zabbix or any of the other tools. So how does it work? Well, there's basically two components. If we don't look at the website module code that is feeding in when there's errors, or FileMaker script that feed in, we have the Python clients that you install on the FileMaker server that you want to monitor, and then you have a FileMaker solution to collect, manage, and react. So it's basically saying, whoa, someone had fun with animations here. Anyway, you have the FileMaker servers, Mac, Windows, Ubuntu. The client is the Python module, Python scripts, Python clients, and they are using DAPI to feed the Whistleblower app. This is a FileMaker file where basically just creating a record for each of the information. So what we feed in is a JSON. So for the server stats, it's a JSON that has information about the different processes, their memory footprints, also the volumes that are connected to disks, so that you can see not only, as you can see in FileMaker admin console, where you can see how much disk space is being used on the system drive, but this one also reports how much free space is there on the data, the drive for data, the drive for container data, the drive for backup, or if you have more drives, it reports that as well, so that you can set an alert when you are filling up the disks too much. But that's in a single JSON that is being collected. And I think, well, that's also something you can configure. How often do you want the client to whistle into the Whistleblower app? I think it's like every 30 or 60 seconds that we have it as it is now. And then there's a server script running in FileMaker that is looking at the new records and taking action if any action needs to be taken. All right, so that's the concept of this tool. And now Peter and Ian will show how the whistleblower client works.
And here's my mute button. Okay. Right, share screen, and let's take PyCharm. So, okay, mine is not really a presentation, and I would really love it if you guys would speak and talk and interrupt me all the time. I don't mind, because I want this to be a conversation and not a presentation. So PyCharm and Python itself, will you believe me if I tell you that I learned Python like a bit more than a month ago? Actually, when I was talking to Claus during I think it was in June. No, it's a bit more than. Well, I was just thinking about maybe we should write it in Python, and then I started taking my BB edit and I started writing some Python. I think I started by asking ChatGPT, because that was really hot in those days. Like, hey, can you write me some code that does this? I think I did it using during the .fmp, like as a presentation. I want you to do something, write me some Python code. And I think the basis of Whistleblower for Python was written in ChatGPT, because I wasn't able to program anything in Python. And even now, it's good that we have Ian on board, because he knows how to program in Python. I don't. Let's see. It started the initial V2 version, and I'm looking for my mouse. Where is my mouse? Here. The initial version of the Python V2 version was about one page, and then as I learned to use it, I started adding more code and adding a settings file. So the reason why we did in Python, as Claus told you already, was like I had this very sophisticated Soyo program using Christian's plugins, of course, because I needed to do a lot of extra that Soyo couldn't do. So as you know, Christian also made Soyo plugins. Actually, he made them before he did FileMaker plugins, and I was already a customer for his plugins when he didn't make FileMaker plugins yet. So, but it didn't, well, on Linux, Soyo is not really hot. It's not really possible, I thought. And it was getting too complicated. And when I saw what we could do with Python in just a few lines of code, then I thought, like, what am I doing in Soyo? Maybe I should do this in Python. So let's see. It's you start with importing some stuff. Really, what's interesting here is that there is some guy, I think it's a German. Claus, do you remember his name?
It's David. It's David Hamann. So
David,
he's written David Hamann, and he's written a FileMaker integration for Python.
You call it a module?
Module.
It's
essentially it's quite well developed. It's been around for a number of years, so it's quite reliable and really good.
Yeah, I started with HTTP requests, and then Ian came up to me and said, like, why don't you use his module? And then I said, like, oh shit, now I can do this much in a much more simple way. So for example, you don't have to keep the connection open. You don't have to check for the, how you call that, the token that could expire. And so it all does it for you, and it was very nice. So JSON, of course, pandas is also a godsend. That's really maybe the heart of the whole thing. Pandas allows us to read the log files in, and you'll see, like, I had some very complicated code in Soyo, and I was able to do it so simply. And if you look, Ian has been working on objectifying the code, because I didn't know how to write object-oriented code yet in Python. So this version you will see here is not object-oriented code. It's just me trying stuff as a complete noob in Python, right? And it's getting somewhere, but let's see. So I already made, this is like already an extension where I made a settings file, and I opened the settings file, and there's also a pointers file that I use to keep my log pointers. So as you read more and more logs, then you have to keep pointers. Where am I in those logs? As soon as something is extra in those logs, then I know where I am and where I should continue to send data to Claus's FileMaker server. So
can I just, sorry, Peter, can I
yes.
just add something on that? One of the things about the settings.json is that Claus and Peter were very, very keen on ensuring that everything is as configurable by the user as possible. So it's not going to make any assumptions, and the users can configure things to match up to their installation.
Claus, don't forget to change the password afterward. Well, anyway, this is like a construct where I said, like, well, maybe make a preference file in JSON, and you have the client settings and you have the server settings. So logs, which layouts are we going to use? Which server are we going to use? Which are the paths? And you could ask yourself, why are you using this while you can test your platform? It's just because I discovered that Python I have a little Raspberry Pi, and I tried it, and it didn't have the function for the platform yet. So that's why I said, let's keep it simple and stupid, and just say.
I think I've now got a solution for that, by the way.
Yeah, I read it in your mail. So that would be cool, because yeah, it's a bit it's a bit special, right? That you have to say. Of course, I did it like this, that you could copy and paste it. But that's the settings file. There is a little pointers file. Maybe I just show the pointers file as well. This is really just a file that says where. Can I just return? Oh, it's not doing that. Clear read-only status. Okay, I'm very good at this. Let's just say it's a JSON file, and it has all the timestamps that I use later on to read from the log files. So this is a little piece of code that defines the log pointers and then makes file, and just if the file doesn't exist, then it makes the file, which doesn't work properly yet, Claus, I know, because you tried it today. And I'm doing some stuff here like defining layouts, and it's all wrong. It's all wrong, and it's going to be better, and it's going to be object-oriented. I saw Ian's code, and it's going to be much better. So anyway, this is the FMRest code. It's very simple. And this is the posts collecting information using what are we using again? Subprocess. No, psutil. psutil is a module for Python where you can ask, like, give me CPU uptime.
Or is it okay to just kind of throw them on the other side?
I think it's fine to throw it on the other side of the wall.
Okay.
Are you guys contributing, or are you forgetting to? Yeah, well, anyway, CPU info, mem usage, available memory, then the disks that are used, and how much that do the disk use. Actually, this is completely multi-platform, so it works on the Mac, works on Linux, works on Windows, which is very nice. So, and then the process lists. So actually, Python is using some kind of Linux subsystem, I think, on Windows. So that makes it so compatible. So, and as you can see, I can just post that data with a JSON array, and it's so compact. It's like poetry. I think Python is like poetry. It's very nicely done. So reading a log is df is in fact a panda. So I said here import pandas as PD, right? And here is where I say like panda read CSV path, and then engine is Python. It's so simple to read those logs.
Yeah, so what the DF is, it's basically a data frame. It's a pandas data structure that's very, very flexible and very, very fast. So I've got a number of people who work in finance in the city in London, and when they were complaining about pandas getting slow, they were talking about dealing with hundreds of millions, if not billions, of records, and their idea of slow was sort of maybe a couple of seconds. So it's a different order of magnitude to speed to what we can do in FileMaker.
Yeah. So I was wondering in the beginning, shouldn't I use tail or some Linux command to avoid having a big memory footprint? Because it seems like Panda is putting this into memory, and then, but apparently it's not really a problem. It's just working, and I don't have to bother too much about it. Then posting the data, and then here there's something I'm making for the moment, which is not ready. Well, it's already functioning. Have you tried it already, Klaus? You've been too busy, I think. But actually, it was just trying, like, if I send it now, like a command from FileMaker, and then it gets the command, it will actually execute that command with elevated privileges on the FileMaker server. So you can do whatever you want if you want to manage the FileMaker server. And then it gives the result of the command back. I tried it, it worked, but I don't think you have been playing already with it, Klaus. Have you? No, not yet. Okay, and then so it's these are all the functions, and this is actually the loop that we have for the moment is scanning for commands, posting the information, which is the CPU and all that stuff. Then the event log, the access log, the statistics log, the top call stats. For the moment that works, and then he sleeps for a post interval, which I defined somewhere. Can I find this? Can I find this here somewhere? No, somewhere here in the beginning. Log pointers file, location. I'm not really fluent with the tool yet, but I think I put it to 30 seconds or something because I was developing, or 15 seconds even. So if I would be running it, I don't know if it's still, if you already changed the password, but if I'm running it, let's see if this thing is running. Do I have to do run? Oh, it's already running. So it's probably not running. Oh, yes, it's logging in. And now it says access denied because I have to run this with elevated privileges, which I'm not doing for the moment. So actually I have to go. One of the nice things of Python is that it's an interpreted language. It doesn't compile. So it means that if I'm in the terminal, I don't know if I can do this. Well, I think, where am I? I'm in this. So if I would do sudo dot wb dot py, is it like this? I'm not sure. Password? Oh, maybe without this. Oh, wait, what am I doing wrong? Oh, sudo python? Like this?
Yeah.
Python 3 or Python, I don't know. Oh, here you go.
Well, it's going to run with the virtual environment that you're running it in.
Okay, and that's so it's now it's this is for me, like it's collecting info, it's posting new data, posting access log, new data, and now it's waiting, and I think it's 15 seconds and takes the rest. Now, actually, maybe it's time for Claus to show what's happening on the other side in FileMaker server. Then, see, there is no new data now because my pointers have changed, right? So I moved up. I'm running. I'm not even running that FileMaker server for the moment, so I don't think it's really interesting. But Claus will be showing real data. So I think I can stop this simply by going Control-C.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Claus, up to you. Or any questions about the code? No. Okay, Claus, it's up to you now. Claus, do you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I need to hit the unmute button. And my screen should be showing now. All right. Okay, so are you excited about seeing the FileMaker stuff? Whoop, whoop.
Definitely.
I think everyone is sleeping now.
No, we're
Right,
riveted.
anyway, this is work in progress. Well, again, you could say what you want about the design, and it could be nicer or whatever. And it's not done yet. But the idea is that this is one kind of dashboard that is really showing, well, who's the customer is a FileMaker server. I also have a couple of other servers, some web server and mail server that I wanted to monitor at least some of the stuff in here. So I added them and said, yeah, well, not really FileMaker stuff, but it suits me well to have it in here. The version of FileMaker, yeah, not everything is completely updated. The server has a name and so on. How many files are on the server? How many are open of them? How many clients are connected? FileMaker Pro, Go, WebDirect, API, and so on. Actually, one of the things that has been really annoying me for a long time with the FileMaker admin console. So when you see the first page, like here it says, oh, 2 total connection. Then we click here and say, oh, 86 clients. Why can't we see them on the front? Anyway, so that's the beauty of something like this. You can just build it like you want to. These are the disks, and it's just like right now it's smug up, but green means there's plenty enough space. If they turn yellow or orange, it means that, hey, almost running out of space. And if it's red, then it's really critical. And it's we actually have a big screen at the office, so we can while we are working, we can watch the screen and see if something is blinking or is flashing red. So there's some status stuff here, like we have something I call ping, and for that that is actually completely not related to the whistleblower client. This is a service called Uptime Robot, and the reason I'm using that, I'm just gonna put it up here. There's probably plenty of services like this. The idea is that they have a bunch of servers located all around, and it will do a ping on port 5003 or whatever you set it up to, and basically just report, is there a connection or not? This is pretty useful when you have something, is the server actually reachable? And sometimes it's reachable from my destination, or actually the whistleblower is able to push data into our FileMaker file, but the FileMaker server it comes from is not reachable from the internet or some parts of the internet. And then a tool like this, which is they have a free tier, and if you need more monitors than what's in the free tier, then you can buy, well, 50 monitors apparently. Then you can subscribe to this tool, and there's probably plenty. The reason I use this is that they have a pretty simple API. So what I'm doing here in the FileMaker tool is basically and apparently something is not being updating here, but anyway, every 1 minute there's a server-side script that is running and say, hey, give me the status of the API, well, the ping. We are asking sorry, I'm trying to multitask. So great. So we're asking uptime. Well, is it actually reachable? And then we have the statuses here. Some of this comes from old Whistleblower 1, and some is new, but first versions of the Python. So it's not really, but the idea is that those processes that are interesting, they are shown here. Then I have another one that is talking about the SSL certificate. So as long as we have to install an SSL certificate, it's nice to know when are we due to buy a new certificate. And especially when you have multiple SSL certificates for different customers, it's very nice to have that in your overview as well. This is just some simple code to get that. So beside that, the idea is also that you can fire off a command, and that can be scripted because it's FileMaker. We use that a lot in Whistleblower 1. Actually, that was a way of getting like the number of clients here, the settings, and so on, because that was before we got the admin API. Which we got in 17, and nice. And then we had to recode everything because the API changed in 18. But now it has been pretty stable, and that's what I'm using in order to get the information about the version and so on from FileMaker, right? So beneath here, there is some, like I said, this is working by the Python scripts are feeding in data into via DAPI into different layouts. That's how DAPI works. And if we should just look at this one, event log. Yeah, let's move forward to something. And as you can see here, this is a JSON saying something happened on this server with this server ID. And it happened not long ago, and that was the newest entries. So we are looking at the newest entries, and this is the event log here, actually. So we are looking at that. Okay, thanks. And the script I'm using here is let me find it, log. Yeah, so basically, and this is simple enough, and it's well commented. So if you want to get this file, or when you get it, it should be easy for you to go in and modify. But basically, I'm looking into the JSON, and I'm looking for error code. So 518 is an error code. And then I say, which codes do I want to react on? And then I have a list of codes that I have identified as something I want to react on. That's when something bad happens or something that I should take action on. If any other codes are in here, then I don't want to do anything. So basically, I'm looking at, should I react or not? And if I should react, then we go here and I create a notification. Yes, a notification record. The idea is, of course, that when we are on this screen, or actually I'm working on something in the lines of something like this, where it's small widgets with the information, and then we have a list on the other side saying, hey, something happened that you needed to react on. And since we know the servers, and it can be linked to solution, or even who's responsible at the company for that particular server or solution, who needs to react on that, if any, then it could go up on a list here. As I said, it's work in progress, so that part is not really done yet. So, and then
I have a question.
sure.
You said you had to recode after 18, server 18. So does that mean
17.
it's only compatible back to that you can only have monitor servers from 19 on?
Well, basically 18. And well, again, it depends on what you're doing, but the calls that I'm making to the admin API is using the V2, and V2 of the admin API was added or changed in FileMaker server 18.
Okay, thank you.
But actually, the way Whistleblower 1 worked was to create a command. I don't know if it's here. Okay, anyway, it's not really here. But it was like, and you can actually do that if you need to monitor something other than that, because you can fire off a command string and say FMS admin list clients S, I think, and then you get it in and say that's for this server. And now it's in here. Then the whistleblower, I don't know if that will actually work here, but maybe we can see. Then the result should actually be whatever FMS admin. Okay, clients is not a good thing because this is a test server, so files could be a better command. So that's what we were using before we used the admin API, do an FMS admin command to list the files and the clients, and then we had the overview of those informations. So you could easily modify, as I said. All right. So let me get back to the idea here where we create a notification, because if something happened that we need to react on, because it's one of those critical error codes, we want to know about it, no matter if it's something that the whistleblower could handle itself, or if it's something that a human being needs to react on. So one example could be, well, I don't know which is a good example, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, there could be some, here's the full error list, which is sometimes hard to find, but there should be almost any error code updated here. But there could be some errors that we want to react on automatically. I'm just going to use the same example. DAPI is down. It's not really working on that server. So let's fire off a command to restart DAPI. And it could be a FileMaker FMS admin command, or it could be I think it could be an admin API as well. But that's the idea. Look at the log entries when they come in, and then we say now it's handled. I'm not sure this command is actually working right now, but then we say this is processed now. So let's just move on. React on that on the specific ones. One is also nice with the access log saying, oh man, Peter Wagemans, he logged in. I want to be notified whenever Peter is logging in, because he's not supposed to be logging in, or whatever. You can watch those specific events as well, and that's kind of very specific to each of the server. But again, this is FileMaker, so you can just build that. I need to clean up a lot of stuff in here, because that's there's some old stuff in here as well. Yeah, the iPhone, actually there was iPhone layout, so that that you could, where is it? There's for the TV monitor and there's for the iPhone. Yeah. So the idea is that, hey, you have FileMaker Go, and then you can actually react on that. And you can go in and say, well, here we have the test server here, and then you can control it, start the server, start the admin server, start a VPE or restart or whatever commands in here that you can fire off from your iPhone. So that was also an idea. So yeah, basically this is it. I just wanted to show, this is the one we've been working on for longest time, I think. That's the process, 1.1 million records. And let me see here. I know this one. So as you can see, there's some CPU info, total CPU. This server is just a test server, so it's not really doing anything. What's the memory footprint? What about the disk info? There's some mounting points, which you have in Ubuntu. This is an Ubuntu server, but here is my data disk. And as you can see, there is 4.4 gigabytes available. For the container data, there's plenty, and for backup, there's also enough. And then we have a process list for the related processes to FileMaker. So that's like FMS Helper, the Nginx, or Apache, FMS IB, Server D, SAS, custom web publishing for WebDirect, and so on. So it's reporting this information into a JSON, and I grab it into some fields and say, great, and then I push it into a server. What is it? Server. Here is the server record, like, wait a second. Okay, nice. Here was something, right? What is the configuration of DAPI? All those configuration information we can get from DAPI or from the admin API. We're storing that. And then, of course, you could build on onto these controls and say, yeah, I actually want to be able to fire off an admin API command to disable require secure databases or whatever you want to. But this is basically a footprint, so this record is being updated every like 30 seconds or so. All right, that's let me see if there was something I forgot. Oh yeah, actually there's a notification, because FileMaker is not well, there's no real native notification for your iPhone and so on. Then there's a something called Prowl. I don't know if you know that, but that's basically a service that you can who has an app you can install on your computer and your phone, and then you can, via an API call, which is just a GET call, I think, super simple. You can fire off and say, hey, there's a notification with this API key, and that notifies your phone that there's something you need to react on. So I'm using that. I built that in as well. Blah, blah, blah. Is there anything?
Claus,
Yes.
maybe you mentioned that I believe you, the loops on checking the servers are server-side scripts.
It's server-side script, yeah.
Yeah, so actually there's no script that has to run. It's the server who's updating it automatically.
Yeah. This is the server scripts. I have split into a couple of them. So update server info, which is getting information from each of the FileMaker servers via admin API. The uptime robot that I talked about, check the logs, log entries. Is there something we need to react on? And then check the process info, like if there's, I don't know if that script is here, should probably process here. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. it's not finished yet, but again, react on something if the SAS engine is using way too much CPU power, then something needs to be done, either automatically by setting up a rule and firing off a command, or notifying a human being. So yeah, which brings me to the last one. If you have any questions.
I have a couple questions. First of all, it looks like a really powerful tool that you're building, and I really appreciate seeing work in progress rather than totally finished, because it's really interesting to watch people's work process. The power of it is making me wonder about the security of it, because are you storing all those credentials somewhere for all those different servers, or how are you securing things?
I'm putting it on post-it notes, and then we have a camera that is filming, and then we are sending it to ChatGPT in order to translate into machinable, readable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it's encrypted, but of course, in order to use the data, the admin API, you need to have the credentials there in the FileMaker file.
So it's making an HTTPS connection, which is an SSL encrypted connection.
Yeah, it is. So it is secured over the wire, but it's true that the credentials needs to be stored inside the FileMaker file, the whistleblower FileMaker file. But with newer, was that added? Wim knows that, of course. I think it was added in 1905 or 6 that you could set up a like a sub administrator, or actually a token. What's the right word? Wim knows all about that. I can't remember the word, but you can set up like an API key for a tool like this, so that you're not the full administrator of the server, but like you're allowed to get access to some of the commands.
Tony had a question. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you. The Claus, you mentioned uptime robot, I guess querying through port 5003 open. So my question is, do you get any pushback from any, hyper secure companies of like, oh, we don't want to open any ports at all? We've used a system where we like push out, go in the opposite direction, outgoing port, HTTP, send it to an app that is expecting to hear from the backup that occurred at 11. And if it doesn't occur, it's like, well, hey, what happened? The dog that didn't bark, the Sherlock Holmes story. Have you gotten any pushback on opening ports? And I guess in the same context, are you opening a lot of ports or just the 5003?
No. Yeah, we stick with FileMaker only, and that's the beauty of the daemon, the client, because it sits on the FileMaker server and speaks with the whistleblower file. I'm just gonna say file. It's actually on its own server, but that's just because I chose to. And it's using 443, which is open pretty much anywhere.
Sure. And that's outgoing traffic, Claus? That's traffic that is originating from the FileMaker server. Is that an open port 443?
No. It's actually your FileMaker server can be behind a firewall, a NAT firewall, and can be a completely private network. So it's actually the whistleblower client that is opening the connection to the FileMaker server, and not the other way around.
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah. No, I mentioned, and that makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. I just heard the portion of the conversation where the uptime robot is initiating a call to a given FileMaker server over port 5003, which means you're opening port 5003. which you might get some, university would be like hyper paranoid, whatever.
We do have a customer in the pharmaceutical industry, and their servers are completely closed down and with IP locks and so on. So for that particular service, we cannot use the uptime robot. But hey, that's just, the ping to see if it's reachable from the internet. So
yeah, no, I get it. So you're dropping a feature there. You flip it around and have it, have a, hey, I'm alive, and an expectation database on the server side. But anyway, I got to say, terrific work. And let me follow on that. Is that are you doing this as like an open source project? Is this a commercial project?
It's open source.
Okay, very cool. Awesome.
It's why that's why I showed you the FileMaker scripts and Peter showed you the code.
That's generous.
So
when Ian is posting it on GitHub when it's presentable, because for the moment we're still like starting up on the code, and when it's presentable, the GitHub page is going to open up, and the source code will be available and the FileMaker file. I suppose, Claus, you are making like a tuned down, simple, the essentials FileMaker file, right?
Yeah, but I'm actually planning on sharing our module, the file that we use on websites to feed in errors. That's basically a PHP file that is a PHP function saying, oh, something happens, please feed that into Whistleblower. The same with the FileMaker scripts that we are using for feeding in when something happens in FileMaker. That is basically just copy and paste and then run that script as if something error happened, then run this subscript with this information that is being feeded in. So yeah, that's
really nice.
Everything.
Good stuff.
I have a question. You mentioned earlier about being able to monitor the SSL certificate and know when that expiration is coming up. Are you able to monitor also the actual FileMaker server certificate, the FileMaker license certificate, and glean information from that, like if they're getting close to their, head count limit or something like that?
Well, close to headcount limit is basically that is
that even coded into the license? I don't think so.
Well, here is the admin API. So here's something about license. You can get license information. You can import the license or sync up the license. So yes, you can get license information here, where you can see the named users, and of course you can then keep track of, oh, now you have 10 users actually in your license, but I can see that you have 15 connected users or whatever, right? So you can act on that. So yeah, sure, you can do that. I just wanted to show the I'm looking for, should be something like SSL, right? Yeah. It's actually a pretty simple command that unfortunately we need to use the base elements, or it could be MBS plugin, but unfortunately it's not. We are using an option that is not supported in FileMaker's curl implementation. But this is basically the URL, and then this stuff here, and then we get some information about the SSL expiry. Actually, you can get much more information about the SSL certificate here. So,
but you're doing a query to the FileMaker server then, or what?
Yeah, to the actually a FileMaker server via the HTTPS, and then there's a curl command that will give you some information, and then I'm doing a grab for the expire date.
But then it should be open on the internet, right?
That's on the internet, yeah.
Yeah. So if it's behind the firewall, is there
I cannot do that. No.
Okay.
No can do, Jose.
Well,
Sure.
we can, of course, always make a listener on the machine itself, and then
Exactly,
do
if you
that.
really need to. Yeah, for sure.
Some idea for the future maybe, and just make a listener so we can actually relay that stuff and do it locally on the machine, and then give the result back or something.
I think we have a lot of ideas for how to get it more advanced if we want to. I can see Alan has a question about the main issue we have at times with server are how to understand what may be causing slowness in FileMaker Pro, how to know whether server-side scripts are causing any slowness, script engine stops running or the web publishing engine stops running, SSL certificate expire. Would Whistleblower be able to help troubleshoot any of these issues? Well, I just talked about the SSL certificate, and it's FileMaker, so you can make your own notifications. You can even hook it up to some physical device so that, you know, when the coffee machine starts jumping, then something needs some attention, right? The slowness, well, it's about looking at the logs, so the stats logs, the top call logs, and then you could look into
process information as well.
it's processing. Well, you have everything available, so it's basically about analyzing the data, but you have everything available inside that FileMaker tool, and then I think it's basically up to you to pick and find good ways of utilizing that information. And when you do so, please share if you are going to use this tool.
All right. Well, guys, I think this is really great. And thank you for sharing it with us. It's, you know, it's kind of blown my mind a little bit, actually. It's, you know, I think it's great how you're using a, you said you've got it up on a screen somewhere in your office, so you can just monitor all of your installs and know probably before anybody does, you know, that there might be something going off the rails there, and you can react to it. So that's really cool. I love that idea. So again, thank you very much for sharing with us. Very cool. Look forward to seeing the evolution of this tool further, for sure. Really, you're really doing a great service here for a lot of people with what you're doing. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So now, next up, we've got Chris Moyer with our Tech News Roundup. And then we'll be taking a little break after that. So Chris?
All right. Have you given me the ability to share my screen? Looks like
I have.
Awesome. Okay, let's go here. Go here, hit play. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
All right. So welcome to the October edition of the Tech News Roundup. There's been some interesting stuff going on lately, and so I'm going to have sort of a tighter focus today than I have in months past. First, I can't help but give the nod to, you know, Claris Engage is out, the call for speakers is out, the session submission deadline is coming up on the 16th, so I thought it would be important to mention that. But for those of you planning on going, here are your important dates, especially if you want to present content at the event. And then the focus of this session that I really wanted to get into was tech industry layoffs. You know, as the interest rates have gone up and up and up and the cost of capital has become more expensive, there's been huge impact in the tech sector, and there's been a lot of sell-off in tech stocks. Valuations have plummeted. And I want to touch on one in particular. There are a variety of tech industry layoff tracking websites. This Intelligence is one of them. There are others. You can just Google tech industry layoffs and you'll find plenty to look at. But I think this is actually from that Intelligence. And one that caught my eye happened last month. It's the bottom entry here. Airtable laid off 27% of their employees, which is interesting because last December, I want to say, they laid off a similar number of employees. I think it was about 250, 275 employees. So in the span of a year, they went from 1,200 employees down to about 750. And Airtable is notable because they have been eating Claris's lunch at the low end. You know, the people who were, you know, historically, a lot of people have just sort of stumbled into FileMaker and said, well, I'm just trying to get this thing done. I might need an employee directory or something simple. And a lot of people just kind of fell into FileMaker as an easy way to get something done, do a low-end application. It was often a simple list or directory or catalog or something like that. And for several years now, Airtable has been dominating that low end of the space. And so they're a significant competitor at the low end of FileMaker. They can't be used to build applications with the same sophistication as FileMaker. Scott Rose did a presentation a couple years ago, I think, about where the ceiling is at Airtable. And so they're an interesting competitor in that they're definitely competing in the same space, the airspace, as Claris is. And they are hitting some turbulence. So let's dig into that a little bit. So on September 14th, Forbes did a pretty extensive article. They clearly interviewed Howie, who is the founder and CEO of Airtable. And so back in, I want to say 3 years ago, 2020, 2021, Airtable was valued at 11.7 billion. And just sort of given the dynamics and the interest rates and the sell-off, and the valuation is now probably down to about 3 or 4 billion. So you can see what a dent in the fender that the current financial conditions are having. But the part that really caught my eye is the part that I've highlighted here in the lower right corner. He is targeting his layoffs to hit the product and sales teams that were focused on selling and servicing the smaller clients. In other words, the clients that would, you know, in times gone by, be Claris clients. And so they're sort of not exactly rug pulling, but certainly intentionally neglecting the segment of the market that has historically been Claris clients. And they say they want to realign to go after bigger clients. They want like $1 million plus spend rates, but they don't have. So A, they want to pivot into enterprise. B, their technology isn't sophisticated enough to do some of the apps that you need to have in enterprise. And they're going to be going up against the likes of OutSystems, who's, you know, a low-code enterprise player. Coincidentally, they also laid off about 227 people, which is 9% of their workforce in September. So they're taking a hit. They'll be going up against Mendix, who's a wholly owned subsidiary of Siemens right now, and who just announced a collaboration with Red Hat to do cloud deployment of their low-code apps. You know, Salesforce is in the space now. They'll be going head-to-head against Microsoft and Power Apps and that ecosystem. So they've kind of had an easy time of it at the low end of the market. And now they want to pivot to the high end of the market. And there's a ton more competition there. A lot of them have deep pockets like Siemens, and, you know, they'll be going against Google. They'll be going against Microsoft itself, Salesforce. I don't like their odds, just personally. And so, you know, to my mind, I think we're going to be seeing more news from these guys in 12 months when this doesn't pan out like they seem to think it's going to pan out. So Airtable is trying to pivot into a really tough direction. They are taking resources away from the people who support the clientele, who are natural clients of FileMaker. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next 12, 24 months. So I just wanted to call attention to this because I think it impacts what we're going to see in our own marketplace and how we might see some refugees leaving the Airtable ecosystem if they feel like they're not getting taken care of. So heads up, there may be an opportunity for the Claris pie to grow. And that's it. I just wanted to sort of call that out and say, oh, I guess the other sort of elephant in the room is that Claris itself announced layoffs in the past month, and so about 14 people got laid off. Kind of a sad state of affairs, but in the sort of broader context, I mean, it's happening everywhere. And so they are not alone in that effort. 14 people is a loss, but, you know, that's kind of the environment right now. So I just wanted to sort of touch on that and put that on everybody's radar, that there's some interesting stuff going on right now. So I am done. Any questions?
So we should not buy Airtable stock.
Well, they're privately held right now, so I think their position is that they would like to go public. Their valuation, I think, is, or the business case for their $11.7 billion valuation is, on the ground right now. So we shall see how this plays out. But I mean, it sounds like he's a little bit of a wild man. I mean, look at that top part of the quote there. I let myself get caught in a hyper competitive environment. We just said, let's hyperscale. And they just started grabbing everybody they could and threw them into the business to see what stuck. And it doesn't sound like a super strategic thing at all. And so they've knocked out, 500 people in the last 12 months. And now they're trying to go in a direction that has not been a strength for them. Maybe they have some indications that this could be a fruitful area but from their history and from their existing clientele, it sure doesn't look like it. And, I don't like their odds against Salesforce or Microsoft or Mendix or OutSystems. Those people have been operating in that space for a long time, at least 10 years. And I think they're going to have a rough go. So it'll be, he doesn't seem super well considered or super strategic in his approach. So watch this space.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really well said, Chris, one of the, we all, for those of us who've been around long enough, we watched FileMaker as sort of this desktop little database, this hobbyist thing that you could build things to. And then the company started absolutely going, hey, we got to get into the enterprise space. We start selling these VLAs, and it's a great opportunity. And kudos to Claris and FileMaker over the years for kind of staying, one of the things that we were working against was, oh, this is just Mac only. No, it's Mac and Windows. Oh, it doesn't go on a server. No, it's been on a server for years. And we still have to push against those preconceptions, I think, at times. But to your point, Chris, Airtable does not have the enterprise capabilities of their tool sets like OutSystems and Mendix and some of those other players. So yeah, careful what you wish for, because the minute you step in, we're in a marketplace where large players, Salesforce is pushing down and going, here's an easier opportunity. Oracle's done some of that. Microsoft has certainly done that. So they see the value of that no-code, low-code space and are pushing existing platforms to be able to include those. And that's a different lift than starting small and trying to push into that
this
space.
just reeks of something being imposed by his board saying you need to go where, there's juicier stuff to be had. But, there's an old saying in the South, you dance with what brung you. And
yeah.
It seems like he's very deliberately pivoting away from the segment of the market where he's had a lot of success. And if he doesn't do that, right, that's, if the pivot to enterprise fails to pan out and they say, well, crap, we got to go back to what we had, and now all those people are disenchanted and gone, then they're not even going to have what they had.
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned that Airtable, has been kind of eating Claris's lunch on that low end for a long time, and I haven't checked lately, but it used to be that if you typed FileMaker in Google with nothing else before or after it, you got one or two Airtable paid ads right at the top of the results before you ever got anything relating to Claris or FileMaker or anything else. Has anybody checked? Are they still doing that, or have they given up on that particular
I haven't
strategy?
checked on that, but I thought one of the things that was really smart about their approach was that they did this database as social media posting. Like you could post guitar lessons or something like that, and they had the Airtable universe, and that was very easy to find from the top level of their website. And now it's a bit more buried, and so this notion of data as social media presence is really being squashed. They seem to be more deliberately trying to remake their image as a more company-friendly corporate type of image. And I thought that was a real strength of theirs. And for them to abandon that, I think is a mistake. So again, I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but I don't like their approach at this point. You know, I'm sort of agnostic on them. I don't hate them. I don't love them. I think they have an interesting technology, but I think they're starting to blow it here.
I just did what I was describing, and Airtable is nowhere in my results now. So for whatever reason.
Yeah, that costs some money.
Yeah, when capital was cheap, they could just
Right.
throw all kinds of money around and buy as many people as they wanted and see if something gelled. But
And you
yeah.
see different, you know, when you look in marketplaces, you see different models. You see Honda get a foothold in the late 70s, early 80s with the Civic and getting kids driving Hondas to college. And later when they have money, they sell them an Acura. Same thing with Toyota. Toyota built up to the Lexus brand. So you have some of these, some products out there that start small and can escalate and make that way up and keep those two tiers separate, and even add to the lower end with Scion if you're Toyota, and go to the upper end on Lexus. So you have some companies are able to build on top of, and some are able to extend below. But there's a lot of money with those deep pocketed tech players. Again, Salesforce has got, you know, an insane amount of money.
It's a completely different game marketing wise. You can't just buy some Google search results and bang, $10 million deals fall out of that. That's
right.
A much longer sales cycle.
Just from a really, really quick search, actually, there it looks like Salesforce Ventures is actually one of the most recent investors in Airtable. So there may be some board level pressure to move in that direction.
Yeah, I would see. It's funny when you were talking about Lynn talking about buying shares. I see Airtable much more likely to be an acquisition than something that goes public. I think they're on too narrow of a shelf to be a listed stock.
Yep. Anyway, I'm very interested to see how this all unfolds.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting, Chris, and thanks for focusing on that particular thing. It's nice sometimes to just zero in on one thing that's going on and really give it some good analysis, which you did. So appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I guess I forgot to mention that we just had the Rome FileMaker Week, and we just had the Pause on Air, and so the conferences are going. I don't really have any field reports on, although I know Christian was at least at the Rome event. So maybe in a future meeting, someone would like to give some field reports if they saw something interesting, but I have none. But it looks like Rosemary has a thought.
Yeah, I just also want to add, we announced the call for nominations for the Claris Excellence Awards yesterday. So please, if you've done great work or know anyone who's done great work this year, please submit some nominations, and so that we can have a big celebration at Claris Engage. And one change we made this year is because we have better engagement during the pandemic when there were no in-person events, you do not need to be attending Claris Engage to win an award, which I know has in the past limited the submissions. So please submit. I will drop a link in the chat.
Awesome. Okay, that's a good change, I think. All right. We are.
Can I just mention one really quick thing? Next month in November, there's Engage EU in Antwerp in Belgium, which is another in-person conference.
Excellent point.
Oh, good. Good to know. Thank you, Ian. All right, I'm going to pause things right now, and I'm going to set. All right, everybody, welcome back. Now we've come to the part of the program that's a new thing, and it's called Meet the Board Members. And since I am the board member this month, I'm the one who gets to kick that off. So I'm going to start by setting a very low bar with a few slides and answering a few questions, and we'll see how this goes. So let me share my screen, share that one. And can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
All right. So, hello everyone. I'm Bob Shockey, and I am this month's host for FMDiSC. I am one of the 5 board members, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, including probably some things that you don't know, maybe even some things that those of you who know me well don't know. We'll see. First of all, oh, not working. Ooh, went too far. Sorry about that. Okay, now we're really off the rails. I want to go back the other way. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. This is me in my natural environment, my natural habitat, an English pub with a beer in front of me. That's, I don't know, my idea of a good time. And I did a little traveling earlier this year, which was nice. Got to go to, with my family. That's my family there. Got to go to some nice places. Luxembourg. We went to some castles in Luxembourg and in Bavaria. And that was a lot of fun. Had a really great time. We all kind of love castles. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my FileMaker career, and then answer a few questions that were sort of tied up nice in a package for me by Lynn Allen. So when we get to that part, you'll hear them in her voice. First of all, I started out starting Shockey Solutions in 1999. And it was my first attempt at self-employment. I did a lot of subcontracting back then. My first DevCon was also in 1999, which was the second DevCon ever. And I was just a lone wolf developer. I worked out of my house, and I worked all alone, except for when I collaborated with others who I subcontracted for. And I'm a charter member of FMDiSC. I'm one of the original gang of, what, 5, Dave, I think, 5 people who did the very first, I think it was called Bagels and Bullshit back then, and which grew into FMDiSC. I then, in 2004, changed my company name to Alchemy Consulting Group. Later, it became an LLC. It was an aspirational name for me. I put group on the end of it because that's what I wanted. I didn't want to be a lone wolf developer forever. And I took a sort of build it and they will come approach. The idea being that if this is what I'm putting out there and this is what I want, it will happen. And it did. Before that happened, while I was still working as a lone wolf, I won the FileMaker Idol competition in 2004. That was fun. The big highlight of that was that when they brought in the results, they actually brought in a guy with a suitcase or a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist, which I thought was pretty funny. My first full timer that I hired was a QC tester who just hammered on my code all day long. And I still think if you're ever thinking about hiring your first employee, I still think that's what it should be. I think somebody who does testing is extremely valuable. And I've always had someone on staff to do that. I started adding developers soon after that. People just came and worked out of my house at first. We opened up our first office in 2013 in San Dimas, California, and later moved to Lavendt, where we are now. I've got 5 total employees now. I've had more in the past, but that's where I am now, plus several subcontractors. And we're a Claris Platinum partner. And there's that first office. I was very proud of it. You can see me standing there in my shorts, taking the picture in the reflection in the window. And this is what our office looks like today. And had a lot of fun decorating that office, getting it set up. So Lynn threw some questions at me and said, here's some questions that you can answer and for this part of the session. So I ran with that. I added 1 or 2 more maybe, but most of these were just, I don't know, probably Lynn off the top of her head saying, here's some questions you can ask or answer, and I did. what was I doing before I became a professional FileMaker developer? Well, I worked with FileMaker for about 10 years before that. I started with FileMaker 2.1, and it came to me, I was working at the LA Weekly newspaper, and we needed a way to keep track of the classified ads. And this guy brought me this thing he had built in FileMaker that was all radio buttons, 100% radio buttons. And I started making changes to it because I didn't like the all radio buttons approach. And I thought it could be faster and better. And I got hooked very quickly, and I started building FileMaker databases for all kinds of various things.
Even then, you were an interface guy.
Well, I did start at the LA Weekly as a paste up artist while I was going to art school, and paste up artist and a stat camera operator, which are skills that I had learned previously up in Northern California, where I'm from, at a trade school. So if you know what a paste up artist and a stat camera operator are, then you're probably as old as I am, because nobody does any of those things anymore. They were all completely taken away by desktop publishing, which is how I got into technology, because I was about to have my job as a, well, I won't go into it, but I had several jobs there that it all involved kind of the old way of doing things. And I said, nope, I want to stay here. I'm going to become the IT guy. And they somehow decided to let me. And so I was in IT for a lot of years, and I ran the IT department at the LA Weekly. And then right before I became a FileMaker developer, for a few years, I worked in visual effects. And that industry sort of, this is going to sound familiar, writer's strike happened, and a lot of projects got red lighted. And suddenly there was no money to pay any of us to sit around and not do work. And so that's how I fell into FileMaker as a full-time gig, actually. My first web browser, I think that's a funny question, Lynn. I think it was Netscape. Don't know for sure. How did you find FileMaker? I think I answered that question already. My favorite FileMaker feature, I've got two that I want to mention here, because one of them was, one of them is the let function, which I think a lot of people would answer that question that way. The let function just makes so many things so much easier, and makes coding so much more efficient. But actually, I think my favorite FileMaker feature is something that everybody takes for granted, which is the fact that everything is internally ID'd. Every object in FileMaker is internally ID'd, and you can change its name. You can move it around. You can do all kinds of things and not have it be affected because of that internal IDing. And that doesn't happen a lot in a lot of different platforms. You know, I think that's really one of the really brilliant things about FileMaker. It's been there from the very beginning, I think from the Nutshell days. I think it was the Nutshell guys who came up with that, and so smart. The big aha moment that hooked me on the product. So working at the LA Weekly, we had this old classified ads database that was built in Btrieve, if you know what that is. It's still around actually, but not used very much anymore. But it's an ancient database, long before SQL. And we needed a way to get those classified ads flowed into our Quark Express documents. And Quark Express has this thing called express tags, which is sort of like, think of it like HTML code. You know, that would style everything, and you could build a whole page of ads using it. And so I built a FileMaker database that translated between the Btrieve code output and the X tags, and it would flow it into a page. Saved many people man hours of work. And once I saw that you could do something like that elegantly and smoothly, and that you could script it, I was hooked for sure. And what music do I listen to while coding? I added this question. You didn't ask this one, Lynn, but I like anything that's kind of got a flow to it, you know, that's kind of cool. Psychedelic music is good. progressive rock can work really well for me. And then some things that people may not know about me. Well, I'm a huge rock and roll fan, and I play drums. I have a long history of martial arts, including karate, fencing, and medieval sword and shield fighting. And I'm an artist by training. But the thing that most of you don't know about me is that my family has a massive Department 56 collection. Department 56 are those little miniatures that are ceramic and little miniature houses. And they started with the Snow Village, Christmas Village. We've got a gigantic one that we put together every year with little cars and people and houses and snowbanks. But my favorite is the Halloween one. And here's part of it. This is just part of it. I have been working on this for years. I built that entire base, and it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with it. And there's a whole other neighborhood. This is where the monsters live. There's a whole other neighborhood that's just full of trick-or-treaters and little houses and things. And that's my daughter's part. And we sort of, every once in a while, monsters find their way over there. I don't know how it happens, but anyway, it does. So anyway, that's it. Now you know more about me than you needed to know. And that is the end of that presentation. So I don't know. Kind of
great, Bob. Thanks. That was awesome.
Thank you. All right. So now, with no further ado, let's see. We're going to go into Marcel. Are you ready to go with your Claris platform update? All right. I need to make you a co-host real quick. So give me a second here. All right. You should be able to share your screen now, Marcel.
Okay, let's give it a try.
And I didn't give you a proper introduction. This is Marcel Moyer, and he's going to follow up with a previous presentation that he did regarding the Claris platform, and he's going to tell us how good of a job Claris has done fulfilling what they predicted they were going to do.
Okay, just a second to adjust the window size here. Okay, let's start. So thank you for having me today here at the FMDiSC meeting. We saw last year at nearly the same time, it was October 22, when you invited me to share a presentation about the future of FileMaker. And now we take a look back and also look into what's happened in between. And there was this Claris platform update introduced some weeks ago, and we tried to draw a bottom line. So can you all see my screen, or should I adjust something here? I don't know.
No, it looks great. You're doing good.
Looks good.
Okay, so let's introduce myself. I'm self-employed as a developer and information designer for more than 35 years now. I'm into FileMaker since version 2 and do a lot of different industries and projects. Besides, I'm also the host of a local FileMaker user group. We had our monthly meeting just yesterday, so I'm ready to present again today. And some knew me from the German FileMaker magazine or European conferences where I've sometimes been as a speaker. So I'm a tech nerd for more than 40 years, but there are a lot of other nice things in my life so that I do not lose ground when sitting on my laptop for long times. So I have enough other things to get into connection. To give you an overview, we will have about 45 minutes for the slides, and then some time for Q&A and open discussion. This presentation refers in part to last year's presentation, The Future of FileMaker. So I think Bob shared the link. If you want to recap some details later, you can do this, but I will give you a smooth recap so that we can just step further from the things we saw last year in the other presentation. Let's start the recap. Last year were some big announcements from Claris, and we also had some major conferences in Germany. So there was a lot of room for discussion and rumors and the enhancements of the FileMaker platform. And we take a look back at last year's presentation, just a few slides. We started with an history lesson. There were these cycles of IT development over the last decades to understand and give it a perspective where FileMaker fits in and what all these implications were from these different ages of command line computing, desktop computing, cloud computing. And we looked into the different technical paradigms. And finally, I tried to break it down when it comes to FileMaker as a tool, where it fits in, where it did its lesson already, and which paradigms and architectures are well supported, where some things were missing. And the final question was, how good is FileMaker prepared for the new age of cloud computing, of distributed devices, and all this new stuff that Claris tries to bring to us. So we had a look back to the change and evolution of FileMaker, the different versions of it. I skipped this a bit now, and finally I tried to put it together in a picture where all parts of it find its place. There were these announcements last year's with the cloud thing, and it was not so clear at the beginning how all this fits together. There were only all these new buzzwords, ESS+, MongoDB, Docker, cloud-based, and it needs to be sorted a bit out to understand what it really means. And so I tried to put it into this slide with different layers, with different technical layers, the client side, the server side, the Cloud Hub, and the third-party cloud services. And then on the left side, the FileMaker and Claris products as we knew it. And on the right side, the new things like Claris Connect and Studio with the web browser as a front end, as a thin client. And even this evolved a bit further in the last year. So we had a look ahead last year to what I called it the future then, but now it's now. And the main aspects of it is that Claris Connect and Studio evolved a bit further. I think they are ready for prime time. It looks to me that in the beginning it was very low-featured environment, but in the meantime they added more features and made it clear how all this fits together. And so this picture evolved further, and on the free version was announced again and again, so we are waiting it shortly. And if we look into some future word, perhaps would be some more refinements to the infrastructure behind it for deployment options and all these basic foundation that the platform is relying on. It gives us some picture of a possible future. And meanwhile, some more announcement came up and some more things happened. And not all things went so smoothly for us as an audience of Claris to understand what's going on and to understand what the implication for us as developers and for our customers would be. And so I tried to recap the story behind all these implications in kind of a picture to understand it better. So in my perception, something happened on the way to heaven. They gave us this picture of a possible future, and the question was, did it really play it out that well, like it was shown in the first place? I tried to put it together in as a classic drama. So come with me to join the theater today, and we sit in the audience now and try to take a look at the development behind the Claris platform for the past years, not only the past year, but also the years before. If I try to break it down, it looks at me as a few different chapters. The first chapter was the waiting. The next chapter would be the first attempts. Then comes the tragedy, the contradiction, and finally redemption. With a warning, that's my very personal perception. There are no guarantees at all, but I hope you can enjoy the story. So let's dive in. First chapter, the waiting. In October 2019, there was a local conference here in Germany. We were all together in Hamburg, and the people from Claris came in and gave some introduction of their possible idea how the future of the Claris platform would be. They showed us many nice slides. There were these new products, Claris Connect introduced some Claris Next Generation, whatever this could be. They had this very similar stages of software development, the desktop, the web, the mobile, like we saw it in this first part of the presentation some minutes ago. And there were some big news and shiny PowerPoint slides were shared, and the audience was compelled, and they were even talking straight. They made some good and clear ideas what they thought of they could do for the product and how the platform would evolve. And it was very interesting, and people were really impressed. This was 2019. Bold promises were made, but nothing really happened. To be fair, the world stood still for a while, and you know what I'm talking about. And also, there were some things going on behind the scenes at the Claris company. There were some changes, restructuring, new offices, new people come in. And so we were waiting for results to be seen. The next stage, the next chapter is first attempts. Now we are in April 2022 already. They came up with some slides to show their strategy, to explain how the platform will change and what will be there over time. The new products are introduced, Claris Connect, and the whole Claris platform would even evolve further. And for the first time, they showed us some technical ideas how to solve all this. The ESS Plus and the MongoDB were introduced, Claris Studio, and this data pipe thing between FileMaker and the new web-based world. And so things got more concrete to understand how it will play out in the final product. And even for us developers, they gave us some so-called North Stars to guide us and to give us confidence and trust that the process will take some time. They had some milestones, and they said they honor our power of our development work and don't break existing deployments, which was an important point here. So the whole thing got a technical perspective now. First visible results came up with the FileMaker 19 version that was introduced in early 2022. The next chapter then, I call it the tragedy. To put it in a picture, you possibly have all seen this meme on the internet before in different occasions. When I try to give it some topics, I would frame it like this. There was a Claris company. They was looking for new audiences, especially in this low-code world, that looked very compelling from a business perspective to them. And then they had this FileMaker partnerships around for a long time, and this technical depth into it. And there might be some kind of conflict inside it. And then came the point when communication suddenly went kind of weird. As I perceived it, they were talking sometimes to the wrong audience. They got this new branding. They even abandoned the name FileMaker. They introduced technical roadblockers just before the new version was introduced. They introduced this version 20 with a new file format with some really critical technical aspects within it. And to make things complete, they even introduced higher prices. So still no beef, but sales tactics. But I think they left their audience in a bit of confusion. The next stage, the next chapter, contradiction. Because there were really some good messages inside all these new introductions. The bugs got finally fixed, a lot of them. They focused on stability and performance. They embraced industry standards. The Linux part was a thing, and other like Docker and JavaScript, many good things. And new features in the cloud were visible. But there was also a lot of cons. Now we had two platforms. The rumors were going on, is FileMaker dying? The migration came at a cost, sometimes at a high cost for existing deployments. There were high hurdles, and people began to lose trust if they hadn't already in the waiting time. So all this transition came with a hidden price tag. Projects were killed, customers left, and no new prospects, as we heard again and again in our local meetings in that time. Companies and developers had to look for other technologies to replace FileMaker because no one really knew what would expect us in the future. This was a time when the community, the voice of the community really got loud. The time late 22 last year when we sat together at the FMDiSC meeting, and it was David who prepared this well thought out FileMaker survey. And there were many meetings in the FileMaker community and discussions on the conferences. So there was some kind of feedback from the community in regards to what Claris is doing. Finally, redemption. Suddenly in August of this year, Claris came up with this new platform update. First, they shared it with partners in the closed area of the Claris website. Then later in August, they shared an open presentation on YouTube. And it was really bold messages that were told there. They took back the two-platform strategy in favor for a unified new strategy where all these parts fit together more easy to understand. FileMaker keeps FileMaker, and the new Connect and Studio parts would be integrated into FileMaker. This was a huge change that had much implications on all these technical parts of it. We'll have a look at it in a minute. Then they introduced free access for existing customers for their new products. Even this was a step that was missing before, and it opens a whole new world. They called it kick the tires, so we can test it into our existing projects and make decisions, well-informed decisions. And finally, I cannot say enough thank you for this change, because we got rid of so much confusion and hurdles that all this drama included. And finally, we got a new path now that is very clear and very easy to understand. So there's one platform again. There are no technical hurdles anymore that breaks our solutions. We have strong FileMaker and a strong vision for FileMaker in the future. So we don't have to be afraid of FileMaker being declined in some way. And there's announcement of free access for existing customers and free access soon for other people to get on board to learn about the FileMaker platform. So to put it in the picture again, I think the new situation looks more like this. Finally, all involved parties look much more happier than before and found its place. And if there is a moral to the story, perhaps it's desire and promising only gets you so far. What it really needs is dedication and fulfillment. And that's a lesson for real life as well. So are we at a happy end right now? Drama was for entertainment. Back to business. Let's check the facts. If we go into review what really happened, where do we stand? I think the dedication is finally there. There's a clear path. Fulfillment is on the way. Now comes the hard work beyond a shiny PowerPoint, but it is already visible and part of the experience for us. Direction is more clear than ever. And there is something happening. Meanwhile, we had a release of version 19.6. We had the release of 2023 version, the focus on the Linux server. There was progress made with Studio and Connect. There were some major announcements in the last year and even in this year. And one critical part, there was better and more in-depth communication with the community. And finally, the refinement of the platform strategy of August this year. So if we put it on the platform picture we saw before, this was a picture we got last year with some announcements. Now they took back the rebranding, they fixed the position of these new tools they introduced in the Claris platform. But what it really means is FileMaker is strong as ever and will go straight past to the future, and we will have a good sorted tool set of the new things in the Claris Cloud, Claris Connect, Claris Studio, and even a clear path for third-party APIs that are introduced with a Connect part of it, and a good featured Studio version to get web access. And so the whole picture gets more straight than before. And if we look again at the aftermath of last year's announcements, we had these 3 slides. The good, it was that the cloud thing is getting real. And I think that is in progress. A lot of it is changing right now. They revamped their whole cloud platform. Some weeks ago, they introduced some new information about the Claris ID, and all this thing seems to be getting aligned. The freemium model, it is announced, and I think it should launch shortly. Then we have the platform license. I think it is solved. They changed a lot of the licensing part, introduced new possibilities for existing customers. The bug fixes also solved. We saw a lot of them. The last 2 or 3 versions of that were released included a lot of bug fixing. Then the other slide, the bad things from last year, the bad communication. I think it is finally solved. It needed some steps to really get into the critical parts of it, but now the things got clearer and clearer. And partners feel left out was a point. Even there, I think it is solved. They introduced some new incentives. They introduced new programs and license, and even better communication. So it leaves us with the points pro marketing and small visibility, but I think this would need a major approach when they really deliver the big thing that is possibly happen shortly. Then the ugly parts, they promised again and again to don't break things, but this part didn't work out so well. But with a rollback to the new and refinement to the new strategy, this is also solved. And this is a very major part of all these topics we discussed last year. There was this one-way conversion to a new file format. This is solved. They even introduced a tool that should roll back the conversions if somebody has already done it. There was this deletion of user accounts. It's also solved. They found another way to integrate the cloud platform into existing FileMaker solution without breaking existing deployments. And then the need for an online connection, that was a real showstopper for many of us who had existing projects. This is also solved. They said it is only needed for a small part of it, and they talked about providing some kind of tokens that could have a timestamp so that you don't need it anytime you start the application, but only sometimes to renew your existing license or something like that. So the bottom line is all these hot topics were addressed and many of them were solved. And the unclear upgrade path is even solved anyway because the new strategy is very clear right now. So this is much better than it looked last year. And then in last year's presentation, I introduced a few dreams of my personal opinion, what Claris should do to enhance the platform. If we look back to this, one of it was the Mac App Store. So Claris is part of Apple, and they talked about it. Even in 2019, they introduced the idea of bringing it to the App Store, even an App Store for our solutions. When I think about it, they should have a good marketing appearance at the App Store, but this is still a dream. I hope this comes one day because it would have a major impact to their marketing and to approaching new customers and new people, to bring in younger folks to the platform and grow the audience. Then if it comes to Claris Connect, it's a critical thing at the number of connectors that looked kind of poor last year. We're coming closer. They introduced the custom connectors, and this is huge because now the community can help to improve this, because other platforms are far ahead in this space, and Claris really has to do something if they are serious about this Connect, and it's a good move, and I hope they improve even further. Then we had a point that I called strong documentation and flexible deployment. They had this website that meanwhile disappeared, but the topics to learn even for new audiences, this is critical. And the options for deployment, there were some small steps that came to life. They improved their website. They introduced this new certificate, and there are things visible to improve the onboarding and the deployment of the platform. And finally, the question, a clear path to the future vision: who, why, what, when, and where. Simple answer, as I tried to write down last year, was build great products and give us access to it. And finally, I think, yes, they heard us. They introduced free access for existing customers. The product evolved. They fixed things. They introduced new features. So now we are really on a clear path to go ahead. And to draw a conclusion, I think the path is visible and has a clear direction now. The results are getting real, and it's still work to be done, but that's normal. That's part of the process. So I would say thank you to Claris, because Claris is not only a company. Claris is hardworking people that do their everyday job, and they're working hard to make all this happen. And I'm really happy about that all these efforts are now going into a clear direction that addresses us as developers, and that addresses our existing customers, and that also addresses a new audience that is waiting to jump on this wagon and to go into this future together with Claris. So thank you, Claris, and Also, thank you here and to the audience, and thank you for having me. It was nice to give us this update to our last year's presentation. So I give back to Bob, and we can use the final time for some Q&A and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. I think that, first of all, that was great. It was a nice encapsulation of what's happened over the last year, and a lot has happened, as you said, over the last year. So we needed it, I think. I think some discussion is going to happen here. I imagine that there are lots of comments to be had, and caveats, I think. I'll start. You mentioned that with the clearer direction and with the forward movement and the improvement in the product, and in the platform in general, that you thought the marketing and the visibility would improve with that. Can you be a little more clear about how you think that's going to happen? Because I have some reservations about that.
Yes, I totally understand your reservations, and to make it a bit more clear that I think marketing and visibility is still one of the major open topics that is not really solved, but it was essential to solve all these technical and licensing hurdles that they introduced to us as the biggest customer group now. So with this out of the way, now the way is free to go more progressive in the right direction, but before they have to deliver some major features. So I think the Connect and the Studio thing is evolving, and it should prove itself, but we have to get it into our hands to play with it, to make decisions about it, and that what was all impossible before, because we had to pay for something, the cat in the bag, that we didn't know anything about it. I remember sitting together with other developers 4 or 5 years ago when Connect was announced, to make some tests, and it was not really possible. I'm still waiting to today. So, but I think today is a major shift. What Claris did, they finally realized that they could not sell something to us or to a new audience without being visible with real features and real benefits. And instead, they delivered roadblocks. And so now that they took the roadblocks back and we can access these new features, I see a really higher chance of making some progress with it. And the essential thing would be that Claris comes to the app stores, and they announced it again and again. And the premium version, they announced that it would come in the next quarter. And I really hope they're doing it, because this opens the door for new audiences and new developers to come into our space.
Yeah, well said. First and foremost, very, very well said. I think one little tidbit that I'll point out that you just mentioned is that that the marketing, that it's hard to market a product that's not complete, basically, that doesn't offer everything that people are going to want. And I think we're still kind of in the process a little bit of that with Claris. There are some key things that still need to happen, and I think you're at the fact that it's not on the App Store is a really good thing to point out. But beyond that, there are things like Claris Studio is not really a complete product yet. It's getting closer every day, but it's not really, something that you can build something big and robust in, without running into, again, like some roadblocks like you're mentioning. And so it would probably be a little premature for Claris to go full court press on the marketing. At the same time, and this is just me being hopeful. I really hope that they've got a lot queued up along those lines, because the marketing has to be way stronger than it has been historically, especially over the last decade.
Yes, but they have all these assets. They have the mobile version. They have this cloud thing. They have on-premise services. They have everything we dream of, and we use it every day in our projects, in the existing projects. And it finally needs some impulse to get a bigger attention. And when I look back, the last year I did so many great things that would not be possible without a platform that like FileMaker. And if I tell people, they really don't understand how is this possible technically. And we have all these technically high developed tools from Claris. And now that they align their future strategy, and I think it's there are some small steps that we as developers and partners and our customers can go further, and don't be afraid to all these rumors that FileMaker could die or be only a cloud database in the future, or whatever these silly rumors were. But no, it's clear again that FileMaker is a strong thing, that is the main show that could evolve and add new features. And I think even Connect could be a good addition for my projects. I looked out for other platforms in between. I introduced Node-RED. I introduced Make, that was this Integromat thing. I introduced EFFT to my projects because of the need. And I had nothing from Claris. But now that Claris gives us access to the new tools, and this with this custom connectors, I think things can change in a short time frame. People like us can hook on this feature and develop some new connectors that fit into our existing projects, and then the whole thing could get traction because people talk about it. Claris gets some success stories, and when they are more advanced in their feature set, they could go prime time and do all this press and marketing and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Nothing else in this space, in this low code. I don't like low code. I don't like low code as a phrase in general, but that's where we are. I think that's still where the competition is happening. I don't think anything else in that space is anything like FileMaker, is anything like the Claris platform, and nothing is as mature. Because it's been around forever, and it's got this ability to deliver really rich solutions pretty easily. And I really hope that they can leverage that from a marketing standpoint, especially. I'm on board with whatever that looks like, but right now there just isn't much, frankly. But yeah.
Yeah. Any other question regarding to the presentation?
Dave, you look like you have something to say, but I don't get any audio from you. That's okay. There's probably an audio engineer nearby.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, one of the things, which we just learned, there were some layoffs. There's about 20 people that got laid off at Claris. So that doesn't happen when profits are soaring. Soaring profits, you keep or grow your team. And like a lot of the people in that space, Airtable and so forth, when there are layoffs, it means there's a softening. So one of the things that'll be interesting to watch, number one, if we have less money and we've reduced our footprint, we may now have more resources or more money. Maybe that money can be directed towards marketing and some efforts like that. The other thing that we also have to pay attention to is if any company has 50 agenda items on their board, or 20 or whatever those things are, if there's a reduction of staff, sometimes you go, well, we've got to let go of this or this or this. So I think the new world order is going to be in the coming months. We're going to see sort of where Claris sharpens their focus. What are the areas that they're doubling down on, and where are the areas that they can put extra attention into, and so forth. But I think right now, given the fact that there has been a game of musical chairs, there's less people to do some of these things. They're going to have to outsource some of those things, or hit the pause button on a number of things, and so forth. So I think we'll learn a lot more in the coming weeks and months in terms of that, and perhaps Engage in February, we'll probably get a reorientation of, what those core things are and so forth. It's funny too, also, we talk about, marketing a brand new product is hard. You're pushing into a new turf, you're pushing into a new territory, you've got competition. Marketing something that you've already got is significantly easier. I'm sitting here listening to Marcel, great presentation, by the way, and Bob, you guys are both making such a great case for how strong the product is, how refined it's gotten over the years, and how widely used it is, and the power that it retains. So that's the other thing too. I hope Claris gets in their head, we don't have as much money. We do have this product that right now already has some strategic advantages over others in the marketplace. Let's redouble our efforts in terms of getting attention to what's already there. And then when Studio comes out full tilt, let's see if we can get some additional reserve money dedicated to the awareness aspect of that.
Yes, for sure.
Anyone else got anything to add to the conversation? Things that you're hoping for, things that aren't happening that you'd like to see?
Just a little one. And Marcel, you might want to. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Marcel, you might want to add this to your presentation. I, for the last 6 or 9 months, I've gotten a little bit confused about version numbers. Because it seemed like they went from linear version numbers to year version numbers to something else. And now I think I need to be using like FileMaker Cleveland or FileMaker Sandwich or something like that. And I'm not sure what the right number is and what the interoperabilities between clients and servers are now that the numbers are a little more confusing. So adding some clarity on that might be good for Claris, but might be good for the Prezo. And if anybody has a quick rundown of that, I'd love to hear it.
Yes, good question. I saw a similar question in one of the forums in the last days when it came to the version and compatibility between the versions, but I didn't know the answer either.
I can add
Rosemary.
just a quick thing, like give me 2 minutes after I finish talking and I'll go find. We have a knowledge base article that gives all the interoperability that you need. So you may just want to bookmark that. And I think we are going to year-based versioning. So it is FileMaker 2023. And then I think we're starting to add parentheses version, kind of like Microsoft does with just like the exact kind of build number versions. So if you think about it, the update that came out last week is still FileMaker 2023, but it's parentheses version 20.2. And so next will be probably 20.3. And I'm not sure how that's going to change as we roll to 2024. But I know that our smart product and product marketing people are thinking about that.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary. That's very helpful. Anyone else? What are you hoping to see that you haven't seen? Okay, I guess everybody's getting everything they want.
Well, my users have been asking for, I think, 25 years for the telepathy plugin.
Yeah.
The one where they just think something and the database does it.
It's still under development.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think the platform's great. There's a couple things. There was a story told earlier in the presentation about rumors that there was a time when Claris or FileMaker reached out to the LA group and put together like a huge list of features. And you guys have looked back and discovered that, most of those were implemented. Some sort of kitchen table conversation. Am I hallucinating? I heard this.
That's correct. That's correct, Tony. And it wasn't that they reached out to us. It was us who reached out to them. And this was 20 years ago. And it's a pretty significant, 20 or 30 page paper with, hey, script triggers would be nice, et cetera, charting and accounts and passwords separated would be great, that type of thing. And I would say probably 70–80% of those features have been slowly implemented, some of them as recently as FileMaker 19. But I think there's still some things in there. This is a 20-year-old document. There's still some things in there that would be nice to have in the platform natively.
That sounds like a collector's item and a really solid piece of work done by whoever initiated the conversation. And dare I say, something that perhaps could be replicated. And I would be happy to participate as a representative of the East Coast. Because I do have a bit of a punch list, but I don't want to spiral off into, get script stack or get doc, specifications. But that was a fine piece of work, and I'm sure that was incredibly useful for the platform.
The only thing that I would say is, maybe reaching out to Robert Holsey or Rick Kalman. They've already got an internal tracking system. Again, I think the team at Claris reads this pretty much almost daily, like, wow, somebody's coming in asking for menu commands that do X, Y, and Z. So I think they already have sort of that internal thing, the visibility aspect of it to the community to see what's being talked about and what others feel and so forth. I think that's the part that might be missing. And I don't know that Claris wants to shine a light on that, but I don't know if we'd be replicating a lot of effort in terms of
did you guys do that? Dave, at the time, did you guys do that like sitting around at a meeting? That sounds like an interesting.
Now what we did, we distributed a runtime and everybody filled out their stuff, and then I exported all of the notes together and processed it all and kind of grouped them in together. So it wasn't really, it wasn't very organized in how we collected the information, and then we kind of forced everything into some broad stroke topics and then returned that to FileMaker.
Oh, that sounds well done.
One of the interesting things that we're working on is using Claris Connect to connect to open AI to integrate that into our solution. I think that's the frontier, that we can really add business intelligence and analysis and insights as people process things in our solution. And I think, overall, a FileMaker is making that much easier now with this new Claris Connect and making Claris Connect more available. So I feel like that, in terms of the future, is one of the more exciting things that we're really looking into. The fact that you can integrate AI pretty easily now into FileMaker, and you have all these incredible AI API connections you can do with Claris Connect. I think that's really going to open up a lot more possibilities and creativity for all of us to really expand our solutions and what we can offer to our customers.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out here that it's one of the things that Claris has really gotten right over the years with access to APIs, REST API, and then later with Claris Connect is the whole landscape when they started doing that was changing, and they predicted it correctly, which is that find something that does one thing really well and hook into that, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel yourself, in something that you build internally, right? So we do so much more API work than we used to, across the board, hooking into all kinds of things, whether it's DocuSign or Slack or whatever. Obviously QuickBooks kind of was the first thing that people started really kind of regularly working with, but it's just there's just so much out there that can augment what we do, and that people are really tied to. And when you say, oh, I've got a way to do that, I've already got a way to hook into that, or I've already hooked into that before, we've already done that before, that goes a long way towards building a good relationship with your client and convincing them that you've got the right solution for them.
Yeah, one of their biggest problems is all the data silos that now exist because people are using so many different programs. And the fact that we can be a hub, FileMaker could be a hub to organize and gather all that data into one place so that you can have more business intelligence from it, because all these different data silos prevent them from really getting a good overview on trends and analysis and things like that.
Very true. All right.
One area that I would like to comment on is that Claris Studio is a conceptually great tool when it comes to web design, except it's anything but simple, at least from my experience so far. There is a program called Rapid Weaver, which is a website building tool that has subsections from an outfit called Yourhead, that is modular. And it would be amazing if FileMaker would consider possibly looking into whether or not that Yourhead modular stuff could be tied in specifically to finally build the scalable front-end website that I think FileMaker desperately ultimately needs to be complete. That's just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, somebody mentioned FM Better Forms earlier as well, which is another great tool for doing that sort of thing. So there's more than one thing like that out there that has additional utility for that kind of thing. You know, don't know if there's any like one that's the best choice. You know, maybe one will shake to the top eventually. You know, or maybe Claris, maybe Claris Studio is the final answer on that. I just don't know at this point. You know, I think you have to keep an open mind on these things and use what's best for what's in front of you, right? Which is what we all do, because we all have clients to make happy and problems to solve in real time.
Yeah, you look at, and again, to tie this back with what Chris was talking about earlier, you know, Airtable, that low end offering, that spreadsheet in the cloud offering, you know, with smaller set of functionality, large scalability, but and easy deployment, but less feature rich than FileMaker, right? So FileMaker coming in with Studio is really, you know, these two companies, Airtable's trying to build up a little bit more for the enterprise. FileMaker's trying to kind of get into that space that Airtable was. And then obviously if Studio gets enriched enough over time, everything, you know, you can see the opportunity for not having to have a distributable piece of software. If you can run everything on the web and get the same feature set that you can with Pro right now, I think that's the ultimate, you know, goal where things could be heading. But that's obviously still a ways off.
You know, actually, there's a lot of great apps already, low-code apps out there that have much more feature rich than Claris Studio, like UI Bakery or Adalo or DraftBit. You can just use the data API and connect, because they don't have necessarily databases. So you just, and they can convert very easily to iOS apps or Android apps or web apps. So you could use that as like a front end, but connect it to FileMaker on the back end. It opens up a lot, even more possibilities for us to use these other low-code apps that are already out there that have a lot of functionality in them. I don't know if Claris Studio is ever going to get to a place where it can convert to an iOS app or a Android app.
What were the apps you mentioned again, Alan?
Adalo, DraftBit, UI Bakery. I mean, they're amazing what these apps already do. And, you know, we're using them to build low-code apps for our clients. I mean, the data API really opens up a lot of possibilities for us to connect to anything, but also to use these other low-code apps that are much more mature or sophisticated than Claris Studio.
Interesting. I don't think I know anything about any of those.
Alan, could you maybe post those in the chat, those apps?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, check them out. I was blown away, you know, when I saw what we could do with them.
Yeah, it's pretty easy just to go to someplace like Capterra or something like Trust Radius or Capterra or GetApp or any of these are all sort of Yelp websites that rank applications, right? So you can go there and say, hey, I'm a barber. I need a barbershop management system. And here's a list of things. You can also go to many of those websites and go low code and see, you know, the list of providers. And many of them are what Alan just listed. And then you can also see reviews or even shootouts. Like, let's take a look at Airtable versus FileMaker, and you can see sort of the pros of each platform and the cons. And hear people reviews and so forth. So there's a lot, there's just an enormous amount of software, both tailor built, you know, turnkeys for a vertical market, but also platforms that you go, oh my gosh, you know, here's 5 or 6 new platforms I've never even heard of that are sort of in the same space. So it's a rapidly changing environment.
All right. Anyone else got something to share on this? All right. I think we're done with this one then. Marcel, thank you very much. That was fascinating. I think it really, like I said before, really encapsulated things nicely for us, and it helped facilitate a great conversation. So very well done. Appreciate it very much. And my thanks to all of our speakers today. I think you all did a wonderful job and gave us a lot of great information. So see you all next month.
Okay, thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Good seeing you guys.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
Bye all. Thanks for the meeting.